Hey guys, quick note before we get started. We're dropping a bonus episode this Thursday, and it will appear in your feed as normal, but we are sending out a special companion piece, so make sure you are signed up to the email list, which you can do at 10yeartown.com. What's up, everybody? It's Troy Cartwright. Welcome back to another episode of 10 Year Town. Before we get started, I wanted to give you this week's stat of the week, powered by our friends over at Chartmetric. Today's stat is 175,591,347, and that is the total number of streams across Spotify, YouTube, and Pandora for the 2 RIAA certified gold records this week's guest has. Even more impressive, they've done it all completely independently. If you want to uncover insights like this for yourself, head to chartmetric.com. Now, back to the show. Thanks. Today's guest is my dear friend, Logan Mize. You know Logan from songs like Better Off Gone and Grew Apart, both of which, as I discussed earlier, are certified gold. Logan has built a really amazing career, mostly independently, and we get into all of that on today's episode. We get into his journey from Kansas to Nashville and back, what keeps him inspired, and so much more. I really enjoyed this conversation. I know you guys are going to love it too. So without further ado, here he is, Logan Mize.
I was hanging with Jesse Matt Koski this morning, and he was telling me they have a writer who's had like 40 cuts but no singles. God, I'm like, dude, what's the luck on that? That's like 4 albums worth of material and no singles.
That's probably like doing something at least.
Yeah, you would think. You know? I don't know these days.
Yeah,
man.
Did you see the Spotify graphic?
Yeah, no.
Of like, it's like how much songwriters get paid out by service, and it's like Amazon, Apple, Pandora, Grandma, Deezer, Napster, and then Spotify. It's like this big.
God dang, dude.
Yeah,
I know, and everyone's looking at those numbers too. What are the monthly listeners? And I'm like freaking out. Like,
well, and this is just for the publishing that they're talking about on those payouts.
Not masters.
The masters are better.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, I've been the beneficiary of that. I'm sure you have as well.
Not as well as you, as we know of, as we've talked about.
You know.
Yeah.
We've been working with Chartmetric actually on the pod, just like they've been sponsoring some stuff. And it is so funny because every time I go to Chartmetric, it pulls up my name. And I'm like, yeah,
get out of there. I was at Endurance the other day where my sister-in-law works, and she pulled up Chartmetrics, and she's like, well, see, look, I can go look at yours. Like, don't show me that. I haven't put music out in 6 months.
Dude, me neither. And this is like part of the trauma of being an artist.
Yeah.
Is like, you just don't got to look all the time. No. You shouldn't look all the time.
No.
You shouldn't look all the time. And I try and, I think for a long time I didn't even realize that was an option. Mm-hmm. But there's a saying it's called, you don't fatten the chicken by weighing it.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. The hard part is when you watch it go up to a certain number and then like it keeps going down.
Yeah, but it's not real, dude.
I know. And then we switched distributors right in the middle of last year, and we came out of like 19 playlists. It was like, what just happened? And then it dropped another like 500,000.
Yeah.
So
pain.
I know.
But it's not real.
Right. People will still buy a ticket.
Dude, I saw you put like 2,000 plus people in a venue in Wichita, Kansas. That shit's real. That's the only thing that's real.
If only you could scale that to every state.
You got to start with one.
Yeah. Instead of states that have more cows than people. We're really good in those states, man.
Yeah. Are we good? Are we cooking? Awesome, man. Dude, thanks for being here.
Dude, thanks for having me.
What a pleasure, man.
Yeah, this is awesome.
We've got the king of Wichita, the king of the Midwest on the pod today.
Oh man, I don't know about that.
Now, did you have to win a battle to get that title, or was that like inherited, or how did that work?
It's a good question, man. That's just called beating it up in a van, not leaving this area for years.
Yeah. No, it's good, man. It's been really fun to get to go out there with you and see how.
Dude,
see
we
that
had
whole
so much
thing.
fun together.
Oh, dude, I loved it. I kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of got the what is it, like the Heartland bug? Like,
Yeah.
man, I want to write songs about this.
Yeah.
Spaces, like wide open space, and like
I love living out there,
Yeah.
and unless the wind's blowing. But the problem is, you know, there's a lot of wind out there. So,
Yeah.
But the days it's not windy, it's heaven.
yeah. You so when did you move to Nashville, and then how long were you here? Let's start there.
So I moved here, drum roll, 19 years ago.
Okay.
2006. And I was here 12, 13 years, full time.
Yeah.
But I was going out for whatever reason. I made my first record here independently.
Yeah.
Wrote it, most of it here. Some of it I had written when I came to town. And the only reason I made a record was because I just didn't know, you know, I had one publishing deal that kind of dried up after a year. I didn't even know what a publishing deal was when I signed it.
Yeah.
It was like $16,000 or whatever. And I thought I was going to be rich. I mean, like, what am I going to do with all this money? You know? Anyway, at the end of that, I made a record, and it just kind of took off in the Midwest, Nebraska, Kansas.
Was that because
Iowa.
you were touring it?
No.
Like,
I think it was because I had friends, and I hadn't really. I mean, I'd played shows, like a one-off opening for Pat Green or something when he came to the Granada in Lawrence, Kansas, or something.
yeah.
But it just took off out there, and then that's where the touring started. So I was in Nashville, but you know, by the time I bought a van and started going to play shows, the places I was putting people in and getting paid were like west.
Yeah.
So I was going to Nebraska and Kansas and Iowa and eastern Colorado and South Dakota every weekend, and then driving back to Nashville, and then writing during the week, and then Wednesday night get back in the van and do it again.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's not an easy drive.
right.
What is it, like 14 hours?
It depends on where you're going. Like
Yeah.
when we were out in the Panhandle of Nebraska early on, like, you know, 17, 18 hours or something like that. It's not fun.
Man.
And then I got married and had kids, and you're going like, well, it would be a lot easier if we just lived closer to where it's kind of where our breadbasket is, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So
Let's take a quick break here to tell you about our friends, the Graphic Guitar Guys. If you've ever thought about having a custom guitar, whether for merch, a giveaway, or a unique VIP package item, Graphic Guitar Guys makes it simple. They've worked with some of the biggest names in country music, handling everything from the guitar to full color graphics and shipping, and it's all for one easy price. They're also a great option for album pre-sale bundles or fan collectibles. I've worked with Scott and the rest of the team myself, and they really do make the whole process effortless. Check them out at thegraphicguitarguys.com. Now, back to the show. I know there was a lot that happened in between there, but like when your decision to like move, I guess, back to Kansas was sort of because of that, like just like we ought to be closer to like where the stuff is and family. And
yeah, there was a lot of reasons. One of them was family,
Yeah.
you know, and one, like, I felt like I was gone so much, like up to 2019. When was the last year I was here? 2017, 2018. I was gone so much that I felt like Jill was just at home raising kids by herself.
yeah,
She didn't have any help.
yeah,
And so I felt like what am I doing here? This is all for me. Like, hey, kids, you're going to grow up in this place without your grandparents. Mom's stressed out because she doesn't have any help. So dad can do what dad needs to do. It's not about me, you know?
Right.
And it was a better decision for our kids, and they're much happier. We live in a town of 900 people. They go to school with all their cousins.
Yeah.
Grandma and grandpa are a mile down the road. So it just made more sense. And then, so like 2019 was really big. Like I was gone 200 something days that year. And they still got to live like a full childhood with family and friends everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it just made more sense, man.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you know, I think sometimes the longer I'm here, I'm like, you know, you just daydream about, I wonder what, I mean, I never thought I'd move here.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I wonder if I'll ever live anywhere else.
That's the wanderlust, man. You're
Yeah.
always just dreaming and scheming about some new cool place you can go. I have that, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
I do it in Kansas. I got this wide open view, a beautiful sunset, and, you know, in your head, you're going, where can I go next?
Like, what if I went to Manhattan?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or something random, you know, or Australia.
Australia, we've talked about that, dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was reading this book called Songlines, which is about like
You told me about this.
the native people of Australia, and like the land like has music in it, and they can like interpret that. And like there's all these crazy customs about like you gotta like sing the right song to walk across somebody's like area. It's crazy. It's a really cool book.
Did Gautier kind of get into that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think it was like interesting, or it is interesting, because there's like, you know, this is another discussion entirely, but I'm very curious about like music and like the foundation of music, like rhythmic patterns and melody. Like it's actually very ancient. Like music is
Sure.
older than like we probably can like go back and find, right? It's like
Absolutely.
we've always been singing probably since we were like, you know,
Yeah.
pulling up in a cave or whatever.
Right, dude.
And so I'm like, well, where did it come from? These are questions I have at night
Yeah.
when I can't sleep. I'm like, man, what is this melody? Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's like Willa Cather, famous Nebraska author, had like that book called Song of the Lark. You know, the meadowlark has been singing the same 5 notes for, you know, millennia.
Whoa.
But they keep doing it.
What does it mean?
And it's still beautiful. What does it mean? Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like how, you know, country music is just 3 chords, really. What
Yeah.
what else do you need?
You're right, dude. It works every time.
What did you, what made you fall in love with music originally?
Oh, man. There was like several things. That you know how it is. Once you fall in love with one thing and you discover another, it waterfalls. But the initial thing I remember the most, where I was just captivated by it, was actually Enya. Yeah, dude. My dad. Yeah, dude. Sorry, I'm gonna get the giggles. Okay, you gotta edit that out.
I got you, buddy.
My dad was like really into Gaelic like type music,
Yeah.
and so Clannad, Enya, I just loved it. And then he loved Elton John, so you know, Elton John records everywhere.
Yeah.
And I loved him. And it was just, I never had the faintest dream of like pursuing music or playing music. I just love to listen to it. And Elton John records like Madman Across the Water, Yellow Brick Road, all that, those were on vinyl at the house. And
Yeah.
God, I just loved them.
How did you start playing music? Did somebody like give you a guitar at some point?
I actually took piano lessons from a local gal in my hometown, and I really was a terrible student. I wouldn't go home and practice. I'd sit at the piano, but like I just noticed like the second I picked up on one thing, I ran off into that ties into this, and I'm creating chord changes that have nothing. So then I'd come back and I'd get asked to play the lesson, and I couldn't do it. But I'd figured something else cool out that I, thought was fun. And I I didn't like having to show up and show that I did my lesson out of the book. I liked kind of going off on my own little direction.
Yeah.
And after a few years of that, I just knew it wasn't jiving and I quit. And then it was years later when I finally picked up a guitar and learned that on my own, taught myself, and then got back into learning, like getting proficient at the piano. And now it's part of my live show and I love it. There are days I'm like, man, if I just would have put the time in when I was really young.
Yeah, but there's something there's something to that of like, I was the same way when I took piano lessons, never really took to it. With guitar, it was sort of the same way. It was like, here's a major scale. And I would do that, but I would be on like the third pass of doing do, re, mi, fa, so, right? And then I was like, started just writing songs.
I got a riff now.
Yeah, and I mean, I just remember like that first time I discovered like, oh, I can just like write a song. I don't have to practice.
Yeah.
And then that is like to this day why I'm not as good at guitar as I should be, because every time I sit down to practice, I just get distracted and write a song.
I think that's a good thing though, man. And it's just same thing happens to me. I've always tried, okay, I'm going to start this new thing where I wake up and I practice scales or I practice this for every time. It's, oh, here's a riff. Yeah. Oh, this word would fit really cool over that.
Yeah, right.
Never works out, but it's a tool. You got to just look at the instrument as a tool to get your ideas out. And,
Did you move to Nashville kind of chasing that? Did you just know that there was music being made here and you wanted to be closer to it, or like what was the impetus?
Well, you'd read like it wasn't until later that I got into country music. My parents didn't listen to country music.
Yeah.
Nitty Gritty Dirt Band was big.
Oh, yeah.
Then my dad was into that, so I knew them. But it was like I found country music kind of on my own.
Yeah.
Started with the stuff on the radio, like Mary Chapin Carpenter. I loved her. And then it was like Patti Loveless and some of that stuff that I loved. It was really a lot of the female artists in the 90s that it really got me into country music.
That was a big time for the women kind of ruled the roost in the 90s.
Yeah. And I love the early McGraw stuff too.
Yeah.
Like McGraw's just a great artist, but he had some killer records in the 90s.
Yeah.
So that it really drew me in, and I started reading I loved to go buy CDs if I had any money or beg parents for money or whatever.
Yeah.
Take me into Wichita and the big city and let's go to Blockbuster Music. And I'd read just like anybody who's interested enough, read the whole jacket on the inside, and everything was being made in Nashville. So you kind of knew early on, like there's a lot of music being made there. And then when I got older, it kind of became the Texas stuff. Cause we live just north of the Oklahoma border. All that stuff came up through Wichita. Yeah. And so you could go into Wichita when I was old enough to drive and go see a show. And it was like Cross Canadian Ragweed was really big when I was in high school. And there were all the Red Dirt stuff, Randy Rogers, Wade Bowen. I mean, I remember learning to play guitar to Wade Bowen songs,
Yeah.
17, 18 years old. And so at one point I was like, maybe I'll just go to Texas and do that. I don't know. But there was a couple records that came out in the early 2000s, like Bobby Pinson, Man Like Me, the Dierks Bentley stuff. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. And that's kind of what solidified me coming to Nashville.
Gotcha. Did you know anybody when you got here?
I knew one guy, and we played music together at Southern Illinois. I briefly attended 3 different colleges. Successfully dropped out of all 3. But I was at Southern Illinois, Carbondale, Illinois, 3 hours north of here. And I strategically went there because I knew Nashville was only 3 hours away. So I'd drive down on Monday nights and play the Bluebird, try stuff out. And there was a guy up there that played fiddle. Yeah. And so, sorry, I stepped on a cord.
That's all right.
Played fiddle. And he would drive down with me and he'd like learn parts to my songs. So if I got my name called, as you know, at the Bluebird, I don't know if it's still this way, but you might not get your name called. You might have to sit there for another week.
Gotcha. It's like an open mic kind of.
It's an open mic.
I see.
Yeah. And so he would play along with me. And anyway, he's like, he was obsessed with music and Music City, just like I was.
Yeah.
Knew all the liner credits. And he moved down here before I did. took me a little bit longer to get the nerve to do it. So when I got here, I crashed on his floor until I found an apartment and a job and all that stuff. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember like getting how did you start to find like your first like co-writers and all that stuff?
I found a place down on 3rd Street. It was called Past Perfect. And They had an open mic on Wednesday nights. So I got a job pretty quick driving. The one good thing I did in college was I took a CDL driving course. Yeah. So I've always been really good at being able to drive stuff.
Yeah.
Just figuring it out. And so I could drive a semi and a dump truck and all that. So I got a job driving a dump truck in Hendersonville.
No way.
Yeah. And
That's wild.
It was cool. I loved it. And big equipment, excavating, stuff like that.
I mean, that sounds super fun.
Oh, it's like playing in a sandbox every
Yeah.
day, you know, driving loaders, loading your own truck. I loved it. But I'd get off at 4. I'd come down to Broadway on Wednesdays, and I'd do this writer's night.
Yeah.
It was all the same writers every week. And you kind of just talk to them, and you have a drink with them, and you kind of hear what everybody's saying, and you figure out what a co-write is. You know, I just wrote songs in my room,
right?
You know? So, and then you meet the like-minded folks and people you jive with, and next thing you know, you got a songwriter crashing on your couch, and then, you know, you start a band with them, you know, whatever. It just kind of blossomed from there. But yeah, it was just open mic nights. That's how I kind of figured it out.
Yeah. Wow. It's pretty crazy.
It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I did all of that stuff, not in Nashville, but like, I remember when I moved back to Dallas from college, it was like starting to go to the open mics and stuff, and just like trying to, you know, I mean, it's cool. It's the coolest part of the process. You're trying to like make it make sense and figure out. Like, okay.
Luckily, I don't remember any of those songs that I was writing then and playing. Yeah. Didn't record them, I'm sure. But God, what a great way to just test it out, you know?
Yeah. There's something to that, man. Like there's a muscle that I think is pretty vital to like start to develop of like just that figuring it out part, you know, because it's, you know, it can happen so fast now, and it's like so if you don't have the figuring it out part, you know, it can be tough because you just don't know how to like affect change. I think they call it but you don't know how to have agency.
Yeah.
You know, and that's probably one of the most important skill sets of like trying to make it as a songwriter and as an artist is like you gotta have some agency, you know.
For sure. And it's good to be around other songwriters too, just to be able to kind of hear what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you can kind of stack yourself, not that it's a competition, but you can go listen to somebody who's really got it figured out, has a lot more agency than you do.
Yeah.
I got a lot of work to do.
Figure out where the bar is.
It's like, okay, well, I might skip a few writers' weekends and just stay home and practice, you know. But, I really loved it. And that's where it started. And I started bands and just kept going from there.
Yeah. You've had like couple different record deals at this point.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And like how did that get, I don't know, like how did the first one materialize? Or we don't have to talk about it.
No, we can talk about it. That's what we're here for. Well, I was always from the beginning kind of always been like a DIY.
Yeah.
Not because I'm good at doing that.
Out of necessity.
Out of necessity. Yeah. And also I just got to figure out the wrong way to do everything. You know, it's just totally. Like, it's all research and development. Somebody tells me why I shouldn't do something that way. I got to figure it out the hard way.
Yeah.
So I know for sure, you know. But it was like, I was a couple years into thinking, okay, first of all, I figured out that sitting around waiting to get a cut by a major label artist writing songs was really hard. Yeah. And I was impatient. And I figured out if you just bought a van, you went and played, you could come home with some extra cash if you could put some people in the door.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a van doing that every weekend. And through that process, I actually started getting to the point where like, okay, this is moving in the right direction. I'm writing some good songs. The band's pretty good. We were playing the songs every weekend. So I took my own road band into the studio. I'd done plenty of the demo sessions. At this point, I'm on my second publishing deal.
Yeah.
With Big Yellow Dog, still there.
Yeah.
15 years, man.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah, I know. My publishing deal's almost old enough to drive. But the band was just really good, and we had a good feel for each other. And I'd been using the session guys, which are fantastic, by the way. We were like, you want to just try this out ourselves?
Yeah.
So I'd book the Quadraphonic over there. I think it's Round Hill Publishing now. But we'd book days there and come back from the road. And during the week, we'd go in and cut songs as just us.
Yeah.
That I'd written. And they turned out really good. There was a song called Used Up, and there was a song called Can't Get Away From a Good Time.
Yeah.
And I took them over to John Marks at SiriusXM, and he played the heck out of Used Up. And it was cool to hear it. It was just like that's us. We'd be driving down the road in the van on the weekend, and somebody could get satellite radio or whatever, and we'd get to hear ourselves. And that was fun, man.
Yeah.
And then from there, he started playing Can't Get Away From a Good Time. And that one really started doing well. And they talked back then, they talked sales numbers a lot.
Was this like iTunes sales or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the time, this is 2013. And there was a couple guys that had blown up on SiriusXM. I think one was Florida Georgia Line with Cruz, and then one was Cole Swindell. And we were doing those types of numbers sales wise.
Gotcha.
And I'd done dozens of showcases for our labels, and get out of here, buddy.
Yeah.
So, all right, back to the van. Well, this time, we were doing so well enough that they had to let me in the door,
Yeah.
So I got signed at Sony.
Gotcha.
That was my first major label deal.
Yeah.
Got put on the Arista roster after it had been being turned down there multiple times. So yeah, Sony was the first foray into major label captivity.
Yeah.
And
how many songs did you put out over there?
Actually 6, which was a miracle.
And how long were you there?
Probably 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a changeover. Gary Overton was running the place when I got signed.
Gotcha.
Really liked Gary. And then Randy Goodman came in, and he cleaned house, somehow kept me there. And then I went and cut a record with Paul Worley that they didn't like, so it never came out.
Gotcha.
But it was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, what are we doing? We're making music, and then you're just going to sit on it for, never made sense to me.
Well, it's one of those things that's like a big head scratcher, of like, you sign a deal and then it's like, why aren't we putting music out? Like, what is the?
Yeah,
I've still never figured it out.
I haven't either.
I've never quite
we've made this product that people will spend money on.
We already spent the money,
and
yeah.
It's completely bizarre, but whatever. That's the nature of the system.
Yeah,
and that going in, you hear the stories.
But it's never going to happen to you,
right?
Right,
and then it does.
Yeah,
that was my first one. And anyway, they were kind of like, no, we don't like this. So I just started making a record.
And were you able to get out?
I was, yeah. And I had already kind of been working on another record with Dan Agee.
Gotcha.
Great producer here in town. We were just talking about him earlier. And it was really cool. Completely different than anything I'd done.
Yeah.
With the stuff that got me started was, playing it myself with my band. So it was pretty organic. Dan worked completely different. And at that point, my road band had kind of dissolved. And it just, how road guys are. It's it's tough to keep the same group forever.
Sure.
So I didn't care. He was like, we're going to do, you build it, stack it up, instrument by instrument. And it was a new process for me, and it sounded really good. And, it was a record called Comeback Road. It had a song on there called Better Off Gone, Somebody to Thank, other songs that had been successful for me. But, so Sony let me go, and I already had that ready to go.
Gotcha.
And so then it came out independently, but ended up with a single deal on Atlantic Records out of New York, and then got a radio team, kind of a JV deal with Big Yellow Dog, Atlantic, and then we had another single on a major label off to the races. How
much time was in between those two deals?
Oh man, it was months. It wasn't.
Oh, it was super quick.
Yeah.
Was there any thought of like, maybe I should go it alone, or was that like just like not really a possibility at the time? But like now you can do it more independently, but I know like even 10 years ago it was not that possible.
The reason I didn't go it alone is because before, the song that took off was called Better Off Gone, but before that, the first single was a song called Ain't Always Pretty. And I'd sent it to Bobby Bones. This is when, I don't know if you remember the era, I'm sure you do, where Bobby Bones would play a song and it would just right to the top.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to send him this single. It was the night before it came out. And I made a goofy video, sent him the song, and he played it the next morning. And it was the same day that CMA 50-year anniversary medley with Country Roads and you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It had all the artists on it. It came out. We were like right behind it. Less than a percentage point behind it in sales. We shot to number 2. And you know, there was big debuts by major artists that day that came out because Bobby played it 9 times, I think, in his morning show.
Wow.
And so I'm going, boom, we got it. We're back, baby.
Yeah.
And you kind of think something's going to materialize. The song is sitting there at the top of the, charts for a while in sales, and nothing really happened. Finally went down, talked to some labels who have all turned me down multiple times at this point.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't,
whatever.
Means nothing to us. Yeah. And so I couldn't figure out how to capitalize on a song being, and look, at this point, I'd been in town over 10 years.
Yeah.
People are tired of hearing my name. And you couldn't figure out how to capitalize on a song sitting that high up and make something out of it. So when the next song, Better Off Gone, really took off and there was an opportunity to get some firepower behind it, I jumped on it.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't make anything happen with the other song.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And was it worth it?
It was cool, man. I got to go do a radio tour again for like the 3rd time. Go meet everybody again. And the song, I think, got to like 38 with a bullet. It was cranking, man, and it was streaming like a,
Yeah.
It was streaming. It still streams well, but it was streaming really well. Atlantic, New York was like, we're not spending any more money on country radio promo. We're going to pass you off to Warner Nashville.
Gotcha.
Great. They've only turned me down like 7 times. So it was going smoothly. I had a radio team that was kind of like, all right, we go from here to Warner. So I went over there to Warner, played a little 3-song showcase during the day kind of thing for the new staff, got introduced to everybody.
Yeah.
And then
the vibes were off.
I thought everything was fine. All right, cool. Everything's great. And then for whatever reason, it never materialized. I never got an answer why. The deal never got done. It never got sent to my lawyer. So the song just withered away and died on the charts at 38. And it was really weird. And from that point forward, I was like, all right, I'm just going to have to be in control of my own destiny. And this is God telling me maybe it wasn't meant to be,
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Did it hurt at the time?
Sure, dude. Yeah, it hurt. It's not so much, I think it's just, I made this big leap of faith when I was a kid, just for some instinctive reason.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do this. I love music. I think I want to be part of it. Writing it, playing it, however it happens. And you mount up that many near misses. You start going, God, somebody trying to tell me something?
Yeah.
But
am I just unlucky or?
Yeah. Well, dude, the kids are healthy. I'm healthy. It's a beautiful day. I mean, you can't get too ate up with it, right?
No, because the reality is it all worked out.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and it all has a way of working out. And like, sometimes I wonder when you do feel like you're jumping for the next, you know, giant brass ring, and your fingers just graze it and you can't quite reach it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's just like the universe or God or whatever, like protecting you from something that you'll never know what it was.
100%. Dude, if Can't Get Away from a Good Time, that single would have kept going when I got signed at my Sony deal. I was 25, however old I was.
Yeah.
I'd still be 25.
Right.
I've had a really good opportunity to actually mature and like ditch the ego stuff and like figure out why I'm really here, why I'm really doing this.
Yeah.
And what I love about it.
Yeah, dude. That stuff's important.
Super important.
Yeah, what do they say? Like you stop aging like if you get a big success, like you stop growing up right there.
I would think so. I mean, I definitely would have. I wasn't mature enough to handle any sort of success like that at that age.
Totally. Yeah, it's you know, it sucks at the time, but it's good to sort of take a few licks, you know?
Absolutely, man. Just, 21-year-old kid coming to town like me, it was, I've said this before, but I was just like a wet dish rag that needed wrung out, And it's true, man. You just got to get your ass kicked, and it's good for you. And hear that you suck. Go out there and show up to venues where 10 people, showed up in a 700 cap room,
Yeah.
It's good for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Humbling.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So this whole time, all this stuff is going on. Are you still kind of hitting the road pretty heavily?
Yeah. I always stayed heavily on it. Kind of out of necessity,
Yeah.
We got to a point where, I owe a huge debt of gratitude to, my Midwest folks out there. And we played coast to coast, Canada, Europe, a lot, but man, there's been years where my entire living came from the state of Nebraska and the state of Kansas, where it was just like, this is the only place we made money. Everywhere else we lost money. Thank God for these places, because they always show up, man. So I had to keep touring.
Yeah. But that's, there's a lot of wisdom in that for anybody listening, of like, you can make this thing work a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
get creative, man.
It seems, I think there's like an idea of like, oh, well, it has to be, I've got to move to town. I've got to get a publishing deal. I've got to get a record deal. Going to get a single on the radio. And then we're going to get on the first of 3 on the Dirks tour. And we're going to conquer the world.
That sounds cool, but it also sounds very structured, which is not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just had to go jump in some chaos and
figure it out. Yeah, and you did,
Well, so that's yet to be seen.
Well,
Troy.
I mean, you're still here, buddy. You're surviving. Yeah. So that's the. I always say, you survive long enough, dumb stuff happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you just after you hear no enough times, you're just willing to try anything. What's another? Yeah. What's another failure? It doesn't matter. I just love it.
Are you still writing songs all the time?
All the time, man.
What do you like about writing songs?
That's a great. The thing for me, songs are just they take you places. Yeah. Not to sound like the nerdy librarian, have you seen Kyle Dunnigan? You can edit this out. Kyle Dunnigan's character, Wendell the librarian. He's like, books are like adventures,
No, but
anyway.
But that, whatever you're saying, like we just had Hayes Carl on here, and he was just talking about like, he grew up kind of like in the suburbs north of Houston, and the reason he gravitated towards like Jimmy Buffett and all this stuff was because it was an adventure.
Yeah.
And when
that was a great episode, by the way.
Oh, dude, it was awesome. It was super fun. But I think that's right. I think I've never thought about it that way before, but that, that sense of adventure is, I don't know. It's like something to chase, dude. You feel like if you write a song a certain way, you kind of feel like you went on a big trip. You didn't even leave your couch.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it just takes like Third Eye Blind self-titled record. Man, you put that on, and I can still smell the girl I danced with at the 7th grade dance's perfume, dude.
Yeah.
You put on Don't Happen Twice by Kenny Chesney, and I can still taste Wintergreen Skull and Natty Light, dude. It's just
Yeah.
I always loved that, and I wanted to create that for other people.
Yeah.
I wanted to create that moment. And that's why they're showing up at the show. It's just a happy moment of their life, or vice versa, whatever. It means something to them. And so, and I write kind of unorthodox. I usually like to write by myself initially for the first 3-4 hours, try to flush an idea out, and then I'm pretty good in a room. If I can't I'm not very good at walking into a room with a guitar and being like, what are we going to do today?
Gotcha.
I've struggled with that. So actually being in Kansas has helped me with writing a lot because I have a lot of alone time.
So will you take in like a fairly fully formed idea like into a co-write?
Yeah, I have a bank of like I have Logic, and I have a little studio set up where I'll get the rough track set up, at least verse, chorus, and Siglick or whatever. Yeah. Put them in a bank, throw them in a hard drive, and then I have something to kind of sift through. And if I know who's coming, I know who to, or which idea to kind of have ready.
Yeah, based on who you're collaborating with that day.
Yeah, and I'll have a couple lines that poke out. I'll kind of walk in a circle and see, what does this sound like? What does it feel like? What's the adventure today? Yeah. And then I'll type like a couple lines and boom, put it away.
That's cool.
I like writing like that. It's just sitting down and having to write a song. I'm too ADHD, I think, to, I can do it. And I did it for years, but I just kind of have my own thing that works for me now.
Yeah, it can be, I feel that. It can be kind of like disillusioning almost in a way. Like I feel like for years I've been like writing to a hook or whatever. You do this, you go in the room, get a great song, and we're like, oh, so-and-so is going to cut this. And you go, okay, but it's been like 8 years. And like, I don't know. I guess it has worked a few times. So I don't want to say it's never worked, but it's like, I'm like, man, I don't know. This feels like, I feel like I'm buying a lottery ticket every day.
Oh, sure.
And I don't always love that. The lack of control, like definitely gets to me sometimes.
Yeah. Will Hogue, I toured with him years ago, and he had a song about it. I can't remember. It was like called The Gambler, not The Gambler, but something to the effect of like, I'm gambling every day pretty much. Every day is a gamble. You don't know. You know? But it's fun. That's the excitement, right? People might show up at the door to buy, with a ticket. They might not, You
don't ever get to know.
This song might go silently into the abyss. Most of them do.
But some don't.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it, right?
Absolutely.
Do you have any opinions on like the way that it seems like with TikTok and everything, like it's just changed so much. You think that's good? You think it's bad? Got any opinion?
I don't. I mean, I don't feel comfortable, and it's not because it's wrong or right. It's just, when I came to town back in the old days, you got in a van and you just went, and there's no wrong or right way, I don't think, to do it. It's just I had the way that felt most natural to me. Yeah. Shoving a phone in my face with a camera, it was new technology that I just haven't. It's not that I haven't embraced it. I have an Instagram and a TikTok and all that. Yeah. I just am not good at consistently saying, hey, look at me. Yeah. But I was doing that before just without a phone. I was doing it by showing up at a bar every night somewhere in a college town. Yeah. The way to look at it, I remember when you'd get your music video picked up by CMT. Yeah. And then you'd turn on CMT and you'd be like, they're going to play it today. And you might get to watch your video. I think about videos I really liked when I was a kid going to my grandma's house after school and watching TRL, you know.
Oh, dude.
Loved it. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, man, I hope they play that Blink 182 video multiple times today because I love that, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like shift my perspective of thinking of it as another burden of things you have to do to promote yourself to like, I have my own network.
Yeah.
Do the people that are fans of my music, and would they want to watch my video one time and then have to dig for it in my feed to find it again to watch it? Or should I be doing it constantly so that they have access to it and they don't have to search for it? So I'm trying to like shift my perspective that way. But yeah, it's a monster. You just gotta.
I know it's so crazy. You know, it changed my life in a lot of ways. But it also like became hard on my mental health.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a burden if you're trying to be creative and write. Like if I wake up and I'm going to the studio, and all right, I'm going to come up with some writing ideas for this co-write I have later this week. I'm going to bank those. I got some t-shirts to send out and I got some touring stuff to figure out.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a pretty good chunk of the day. Oh crap, I don't have anything to post on social media. And then you go into this downward spiral of like, I got to film it, then I got to edit it. What am I going to
Got to scroll for inspiration.
Yeah.
And 7 hours go by.
Oh my, well that happens. That's a bad one.
Yeah. The doom scroll.
Yeah. It's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just figuring out what you want to, if I had somebody sitting there going like, today we're going to do this, that would be worth every penny.
Yeah.
Just tell me what to post. And Jason Nix now is doing an AI manager who tells him what to post every day.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, that's pretty brilliant. So I might just start copying him.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, I think obviously it works great for a lot of people. I think you just got to find what works for you, and I think I don't know. I do feel like there's a little bit of like a robbing Peter to pay Paul on the creativity point of it. Like I've noticed when I put my last record out, the end of August of last year, I was like, for the first time, I was like, hey, I'm just going to like take a break from posting all the time and from trying to put music out all the time. And I'm just going to try and create something new, kind of in a not, you know, more or less in a vacuum, and see if I can like grow whatever I like, see if I can like take a bigger swing, like make something even cooler than I did the last time. Try and give myself the space to do that. And I, you know, I mean, time will tell if I'm right or not, you know, but I've enjoyed the process. It felt intentional. And now I'm having to kind of get to that new place of like, all right, now this record's done. How am I going to promote it?
Yeah.
You know,
Dude, that's probably a great thing to do. I mean, back when I first started, you know, doing this, I had a BlackBerry or something. You weren't distracted by a phone. You were immersed in the thing.
Right.
So I think that's important, dude. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, but then I'll read like an article on like, you familiar with like context collapse?
No.
It's like, you know, in a specific way, it's hard to post. The reason why it's harder to post sometimes is because like you don't know like who your audience is. So is it your family that's going to see this? Is it your friends? Is it your fans? Or is it random people that have no clue who you are?
Yeah.
And you're trying to make one thing that maybe could work for all of them. And that is very hard to do. Like if you were a painter, you're painting in theory for it to be viewed like in an art gallery. So you can kind of understand like where the target is.
Yeah.
So I'm making this for this situation. You know, when you're writing a song, used to be, well, I'm writing a song for country radio, or I'm writing a song for an album cut or whatever. And now you're writing a song for everything. You're hoping that it streams well. You're also hoping like this 20-second bit maybe could go viral, and if it doesn't go viral, then no one's gonna hear it. And I don't know how. Am I just gonna stand in a field and sing this song, and like who's gonna care about this?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is. Something I've been just sort of getting up in the morning and going on a walk and being like, how do you like kind of crack this this nut where you can like put things
you're ahead of the
in
game,
their place.
I don't think about it, and and that's maybe intentional, maybe it's not. I don't know, but yeah, let me know when you figure it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens. And I don't have any answers. I'm just trying to sort of like, even if it's as simple as just going, all right, well, I'm going to throw this on TikTok with an understanding that nobody has any context for this. And so maybe you structure it in a way where it could make sense that way.
Yeah.
But I think originally with like Instagram and stuff, it was harder for me to even get into that game. Cause I'm like, it's like, is this for my mom?
Yeah.
Or is this for like
I
Nashville?
do think about, okay. Like I think about, all my friends and everybody back home where we live in our population 900, Andale, Kansas.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're going to see this video that I post and think I'm the biggest idiot,
And I got to see them at lunch.
Yeah. Right. So every time before I post something, I'm like, God dang it, and I hit post. I'm like, everyone hates me now.
Yeah.
And it's something, it's just me singing a song with a sunset or something. It's so unnatural for, here, at least you're around of other creative people that are,
that are doing it.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of that, but man, we just went and recorded an entire album at an abandoned schoolhouse in Cottonwood Falls, Kansas with the road band. And it was like no outside world and just shut it off. And I tried not to think about who's the audience for this.
Yeah.
We just made it and it was so fun. I don't know if anyone's going to like it, but it was like, I feel like I have to do stuff like that to keep the youthful, fun, creative part of my life. Cause if I start thinking about that stuff, dude, man, I'll be in the dark place real quick.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think ultimately you got to make it for one person, and that's you.
Yeah. Sure.
At least start there.
Right.
That's the most important part. Cause
100%.
I think there is some sort of energy transfer, right? Of like, I love it. If you love it, other people might love it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no one answer for right or for wrong, right?
That's the best part about it, dude. It's just a wide open, go figure it out. Start throwing some darts.
Yeah. Yeah. Throw some pickles on the wall. See which one
absolutely
hits the bottom first. If you were starting all over, what kind of advice would you give younger you?
The one thing that I think I've always done that I'm really happy I did is I always have kind of like followed my gut instinct, right? For right or wrong, right? Intuition hasn't always led me to the most successful scenarios, but I feel like it's always taught me a really important lesson.
Yeah.
I would say definitely do that again. Follow your gut. But maybe there's some advice out there that you could have taken instead of having to go figure out like why it's the wrong way to do something. Now, there's been a couple times I've made some decisions against other people's judgment that turned out in my favor.
Yeah.
But it's highly outnumbered by the simple things that I could have just listened to,
Like what? Give me an example.
Oh God. Just little, I can't even think of an example, just little things, touring wise. And, it's so important to like relationships here are important here in this town, where I can easily go into my own little hole and, just think I got to DIY this all myself. And no one else, dude, include other people.
Yeah.
And people have said that, it's like, no, I'll just do this myself. It's like, ask, divvy up jobs, like be like, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's my vision. Communicate it.
Yeah.
Don't keep it all right here and keep your blinders on. That's something I've been terrible at and I'm trying to get better at.
Yeah.
People want to help. People want to be part of this something, ask for help when you need it. And, just be willing to be part of a team.
Yeah.
Don't try to carry the load yourself.
Yeah. It's good advice.
Yeah.
Hard to do.
It is tough to do, but, people are more, if somebody asks me for help, I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified to ask other people for help.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I don't know what it is, but, I got to get rid of that, I got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But I'm better. I would just tell my younger self, man, don't be afraid to ask for help and be a team player.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I'm glad you're here, and
Me too.
it's been fun. I appreciate you taking me out on the road all these times, and
Absolutely, dude. Anytime.
I feel like you're I don't know, dude. I think your story is really inspiring because you've it's been a journey for you, but like you've over time, like you've for sure made it work, and you got some gold records and selling tickets. Like
thanks, man.
it's a success.
I love it. I really, really enjoy it. If I had to make a living another way,
Yeah.
I would, but I'd still do this. I love songs and I love seeing people connect with them. That's just a magical thing. And I love the creative process of coming up with the album artwork and the track listing and
Getting
the visuals.
Getting the sequencing right.
Yeah. It's just so much fun. And I'm just happy to be here, dude.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, thank you again
Thank you.
for being here. I appreciate it. That's it. That's the pod. See you later. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. If you want to submit a question for one of our Q&A episodes, you can do so at tenuretowne.com. We would love it if you would join the Tenuretowne community, which just means we'll send you updates via email about stuff we got going on. And of course, please rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Wherever you listen or watch this thing, we appreciate you so much. See you next week.